are new. We have up here the community that we primarily service, but we even have some members who live in Michigan. So we branch out. We're happy to have everyone. And I'm trying to see who is a veteran here who can lead us in the flag. Oh, all the veterans that I know by sight, I want to see. Don? Don, oh, John, of course. See, you've been outed, John. Let's do it. Please stand. Flag is here. For all. So a quick welcome to everyone, and yes. Everybody in the room. Alex, can you say your last name for me? Mohajer, who is running for the state senate. Thank you. And Joanna Watson, formerly president of WAVE, and now running for the convention seat that we will talk about shortly. And I want to give a special shout out to people who are not here, because we have started and thinking about the future. So people watching this who we don't have here with us. And of course, we're very happy to have them. And we want to tell them that they're welcome to come when they're able, or welcome. And of course, are you excited about the fact that Joe Biden has finally announced the president? Yeah. Okay. My 538 speech today says we live in a very evenly divided country, and every presidential election these days is close, so we should be prepared for a very competitive race. What that means is, folks, you are at the off the couch, start hitting the doors of your neighbors and talking to people and picking up for Joe Biden. And, oh, by the way, he's only a couple of years older than I am, so I really don't want any more of this talk about that he doesn't have the rights. Otherwise, you can find a new president. Well, I guess it's coming. Okay, so for those of you who are new, oh, another shout out to a candidate. Yay! Yeah. Tell everybody your name.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Watkins, and I'm a candidate for the Orange County Board of Education Area 3.
So the way our agenda works is that we put all of the, stuff we don't really like to do, like agendas and forums and minutes and adjourning and the treasury, what we call the consent list. And those are the items that will check on. And we will vote on them all in one fell swoop. Unless one of you or you would like to remove something from the consent list, and then we will discuss it, motion, debate, and all that. So is there anything anybody wants to remove from the consent list? So I would like a motion to accept the consent list. Thank you. The motion was by Herb Cohen and seconded by Heather. And I'm putting that in the record because our secretary is going to be using the YouTube to do our minutes. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, here's our treasurer's report. Good news, the number at the bottom is going up, and that's what we want to have happen, because we're going to have to give these wonderful candidates contribution, and we can't contribute to their campaign unless we get the money in our treasury. So I think we're doing very well. The biggest extent was buying 10,000 postcards, which we mail and distribute door to door. So there are now, I think, 6 boxes of them in the garage, which my friend over here said, come get. Thank you. Okay, any questions on the treasury report? Okay, we did that. About a week ago, we had a very nice event at the walkway below the Murray Center. A good friend of all of ours, Bill, used to be a chair of this club. Vice chair, okay, and passed away. His friends from Drinking Liberally put on an event where they arranged to plant 3 trees for Bill. Okay, you can see them doing it. Just right down below the Murray Center on the main pathway. And it was a wonderful event. And it occurred to me that sometimes we forget that although we're a chartered Democratic club, there are all these other ancillary things that happen, like Drinking Liberally. And then there's the ladies' lunch group, which has gotten together on a pretty regular basis. And then we all have really close friends, like in Women For. And by the way, right now, since I mentioned it, Women For is one of the sponsors of the Great Writing. And there's a flyer on your table about it, and we encourage you to participate in it. So in addition to the formal part of the club, there are all these informal things that go on that we recognize and try to support. So we're doing committee reports, and I don't see Janet here, who is our vice chair. Is Janet here? No. Okay, so I'll do. Okay, so the Cook political report is one of the famous people who do prognostications about who's going to win. And a lot of people who are in the business of giving money to candidates look at the Cook political report. And so they compare candidates based on how well they expect that candidate to do, based on what happened in the prior 2 presidential elections. So they look at like a DG plus 2 means that candidate in that district, the Democratic candidate in that district, should do 2% better than the average across the country. Okay? So we have 4 congressional districts that our area covers, although we no longer actually have precincts in Mike Levin's district, but you know, he's been our friend for a really long time. And so there are 2 districts, 45 and 40, which are held by Republicans, Young Kim, and Michelle Field. And the interesting thing is that Michelle Field, who's in the 45th, which is the orange part in the upper right-hand corner of the map, is actually a rather, we as a Democrat, using the Cook political reports, partisan voting index, it's more heavily Democratic than Republican. So I'm sure that people in North Orange County are going to be going after that. And then, of course, going after Mike Levin down in the south in the 49. The big one for us is the 847. There are already 3 Democrats. One of them is here. Yay. And two Republicans. So we have Don Jones is a Democrat, Dave Lynn and Joanna Watts. And that's a D+3, which means it's possible for them to win, but they have to work really, really hard. Because guess what? The Republicans have decided that they want to stay in the House. They don't want to give up the House. And so they're going to pour a lot of money into these races. And what does that mean? What do we have to do? I have to work our fannies off to hold on to these seats. Okay, so it's really, really important, okay, that we save these Democratic seats that we have, and that we win back the other seats. Okay, and then of course the other thing we have to do is we have to win the seat that covers a portion of our area, a really small part of our area, which is District 3, where Nancy is running. Right now, I think I can say without contradiction that the school board, the county school board in Orange County would feel quite comfortable in Alabama or Georgia or one of those other places. Okay, it is not an Orange County type school. Okay, and we have to change it. And of course, Judge Riddle has been trying for years, going to those school board meetings and sending out her message to tell us all what's wrong, what's going on there. But we are going to do everything we can to help Nancy win that seat, because it's so important, and also because she's one of my graduate students. A long time ago. Okay, Beth, you want to come up? And one of the things we do in our club is we have these focus groups for each of the communities. Back in the term of no.
I thought you were taking the pain while still speaking. Thank you. I want to kind of echo the point about the importance of getting really hyper local. You start talking about the individual districts and how we can win an individual seat in a city. That's a hyper local environment. And with the new districting requirements, we can do something, but it has to be done on the local level. And the club started out with focus groups. I'm not used to using my mic, but I occasionally use my voice. Started up the focus groups for the individual cities. And the results are very positive. You look at Mission Viejo, after there got candidates for several who are in this room and got one elected and two less desirable city council members off. So the results of really focusing on that hyper local and using those focus groups really important. So I encourage you to look at the individual groups, reach out to them and see if you can start attending some of those meetings. We'd obviously like to do them more frequently, life gets in the way, but let's try and figure out how we can get part of these groups and make those differences happen at the local level.
Yeah, actually, our club, as far as I know, we're the only club that actually has focus groups. But that probably is because we have such a wide geographic area assigned to us. So I know the Mission Viejo group, they meet all the time. And I know that Andy Alexander is sending out lots of good information about what's going on in Wake Forest Riding. Okay, Ann, you want to talk about this?
So this fall, we're going to be having a reimbursement conference, which means that people running for state and federal office will be trying to get the endorsement of the Democratic Party. And so this is the timeline that we're on right now. If you would like to represent our club, we're going to be having an election in June. And you can be on the ballot by filling out one of these little application sheets that has just, your basic information on it. And your name too can be put on the ballot in June where we will be voting, and it's by assembly district. So, we'll be having people vote for representatives for Lake Forest, we'll be having people vote for representatives from the jail. And if possible, we might be able to squeeze one or two other, areas in. And if you get one vote every 20 members from that district. So if we have 100 members from a certain district, we get 5 members we can vote for. So if you're interested, we can pass these up into them. And in June, we're going to be looking at voting. The actual process of what you're going to be doing in the fall is not going to be coming to September and October. And you actually can do most of this online, so you don't have to worry about going to a meeting somewhere. There's a lot of support. Usually there are little kind of get-togethers of the people that are going to be representatives from our club, where they discuss the different candidates running. And you're probably one of the few clubs where we let you vote your money. We don't dictate that you have to vote a certain way to represent our club. You vote for who you think the best candidate would need to be endorsed. So if anybody's interested, if you want to raise your hand, would anybody like to take one? All right, so these are the assembly districts. We have basically the 72nd kind of runs down through Lake Forest and Laguna Woods area, and then Mission Viejo is the 74th. RSM, we're going to be the 71st. So we don't have too many members from San Juan Campus, don't stand for many, but if we get 20, if we have 20, we can send one representative. So that's basically how we're going to be dividing this up. Anybody else need a application? Okay, great. Okay, she wasn't going to do that. She. Okay.
Actually, the people who've done it really like it because they get together informally, and they invite candidates to come and talk to them. And then each person makes up their own mind. Okay, so we've experienced in years past a lot of hurt feelings. And we said that the club would only direct people to vote for a certain. Not gonna drag out things here in the meeting. And so we got rid of that, and we really liked it that they were doing. We're one of the few clubs that. Okay. Questions on that? Thank you, Anne, for taking care of everything.
Yeah, so we're up to 361. We had a really good response to our telephone meeting. We had about a third of the people we called we knew. So I think that's a good percentage. That's funny. I actually wrote emails to the people I have on the volunteer list this week that said, drop you because you are not no longer a member. And I got 3 people that same day said, oh, so we're chugging along here. And so we're up to 361.
And, you know, the bulk of our money comes from membership, so, you know, when you've been just coming and enjoying the meetings and not paying and wondering why we don't have any money, well, it's fine. Okay, you want me to do this one here? Okay, so next in May, we are collecting for the Orangewood Foundation, which supports, foster youth. I actually was involved years ago in helping with Celebrate. It's a great organization. So there's a list of things that you can contribute, and you bring them to the front of the meeting outside, and somebody collects them like magic, and I never have to see them out the room. And a lot of stuff is collected, and so we do this every month for a different organization. And we have an ulterior motive in that by doing this, we're convincing people in these various organizations that we not only vote our values, but we live them as well. So we've been doing this a long time. Okay, oh, I went the wrong here. Sorry. Wow, what am I doing? I must have put that slide in twice. Okay, fundraising, Laura. Sorry for doing these tonight, because Marty's got the sniffles, so she should be here. So, first I want to say, if anybody has not bought any, tickets for our opportunity drawing, you're welcome to do so. I want to say one thing here. I really think it's important to acknowledge every single penny that we get, whether it's from your membership or if you buy tickets, whatever it is appreciated. And so please don't think that it's not. So at the fundraising team, our core belief is we think we can have fun and raise money too. So, we've got a couple coming up. We've got this coming, or in May, on the 11th, at OG's Pizza over in Mission Viejo, we're gonna have a small business committee meeting. And we kind of got them started before, but they really didn't kick in, so we think we can be a benefit to the small business people in our community, and we can benefit them and they can benefit us. So if you have any kind of small business, Nan, and you want to join us, we're running pizza that night, so 4 o'clock to about 6 o'clock at OG in Mission Viejo. My name is Melora, and if you want to contact me, I'll be happy to give you more information, but on May 11th. So we're gonna try to mix up every month, we got raffle baskets, we get a lot of things donated. We're also gonna mix it up between that, and we might, one month, this summer, we're gonna maybe sell pizza. So you can buy a slice of pizza before the meeting. Another thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have some of the 50-50 raffles. So we're gonna try to mix it up so that there's something for everybody. But if none of those things float your boat, and you feel like you want to give a little bit more every month, you can be a sustaining donor. And all you have to do is take $5, go online on ActBlue, and you can have that come out of your checking account or your Visa or whatever, I think it's your credit card every month. And if you're a sustaining donor, then you get to join us at this year's sustaining donor appreciation event that we're going to have. We did it last year at the Ebel's house. It was wonderful. We had cocktails, we had wine and charcuterie, we had charcuterie in a jar. So it was really fun, and everyone enjoyed just getting the opportunity to sit down and visit with each other. So if you do that before, let's see, September or in September, you'll be on the list to get invited to our sustaining donors appreciation party. And you can do it for $5 a month, pretty easy. In July, we are going to have former Wisconsin Senator Russ Feingold here. I'm not sure, Barbara, did you get him? Good job, Barbara. She contacted him, and he's going to be one of our speaker that night. So we're going to have a VIP little event right before, a little extra money. You can come and meet him and get pictures. So that'll be coming up in July. That's our July 17th meeting. We are also working on another date where we're in limbo right now, but we're actively working on it for our ice cream social that's coming up. We're trying to find a place to have it where we don't maybe have to pay too much for the venue. So we're trying to keep our costs down on that. So if anyone has any brilliant ideas, let me know. So if nobody has any other tickets they want to buy, I want to get my team up here. I want to thank Barbara for helping us sell tickets. Kathy's on our team, she helped us sell tickets, and I got Ellen up here helping. So we want to draw here. And thank everybody that contributed. We really appreciate it. Okay, there we go, Barbara. Wild woman, Barbara. Okay, everybody. 714028. 028. Anybody? They're looking right up there. Come on. And you can select which shop that you would like to have. So they're both for spring. One's got a little bubbly in it. The other one's got honey. Okay, and the next one is 250108. 250108. 108. Here we go. All right, come on. Thank you very much. So next month we're going to do 50-50. So really, thank you all very much. You appreciate everything you guys do, really. Thank you to the fundraising team. So Bert's going to come up and talk about our speaker for tonight. But next month, May 23rd, we have Louis Patillo, a political science professor, and he's from UCI, and he's going to be talking about higher immigration, yeah, which is a big problem, and it's only going to get worse. If you listen to the news and you talk about climate change, it's going to just be really ugly. So we need to get our thing together about that. Okay, her. Oh, and by the way, turn your program over, and you're going to find some information Sue provided. And there's also a little information sheet here. Yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. No, it's not. Right. So is it the 23rd, the 16th? Okay, the third. Okay. 16th. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely norm. Okay. There's a little information sheet on the table. I grabbed from Wikipedia just for those of us who've forgotten the history. I was like, yeah, oh, when did that happen? Yeah. So that was, don't blame that on Sue.
I think a lot of the, we said about, Sudi is up there, so I'm not going to repeat. But, my impression of, communicating with her a few times and, understanding her background goes back to an event that, everyone will remember reading about this, where, her name is Masha Gina Amini. She was a woman in Iran who refused to wear a headscarf or didn't wear it properly. She was killed. I think that was a big motivator for our speaker to activate on behalf of liberty and women's rights and equality. So
Hi, everyone. Just have a little video to watch for a minute before I speak. We're all protesting against the Islamic regime in Iran. We're all protesting. We are protesting against the Islamic regime in Iran. Protests started when the hijab police put up a 22-year-old woman in custody. But there is more than wonderful hijab for the existence of the morality police. Women are treated as a third women's second-class citizens. They are even deprived of their basic rights. Women legally cannot become president or judges. Women cannot work without the permission of their father or their husband. That also goes for admitting the country, education, deciding where to live, and how to dress. The building is already built illegal, and future has become more over time. The law in Iran women get custody of their children after divorce. In fact, they cannot even divorce their husband without order of the Islamic court. Women are not allowed to sing, not allowed to dance, to go to the stadium, to look at football matches, throughout time. Law requires women to wear hijab everywhere except for their homes. It's not only about women. The Islamic regime is extremely corrupted, violent, and oppressive, which has been going on since 42 years ago, right after the Islamic Republic of Mission in Iran, and has put women and men in Iran against Islamic Republic. Thanks to Sheila Oni, which is, I don't know if you guys, if you watch the series of Tehran on, Apple series, Sheila Oni, who does the voiceover on this video, is the lady that is, married to the investigator. there, so, thanks to her for putting this, she put the whole history behind it in 1 minute, much better than I would have been able to say it. So, greetings, thanks for the invitation to speak at, our club. I say our club because I'm also a member. I think it's important to share that I've lived in the United States since 1986. 16 years of it was in Michigan and 21 years of it in Mission Viejo. I left Iran at the age of 17, shortly after graduating from high school and completing university submission examination. I was 11 in 1979. I'm 55, so try to do the math. I give it to you. I was 11 when the 1979 intrusion occurred. Why don't I call it a revolution? Because it was orchestrated by the West. Thanks to President Ford, Kissinger, United Kingdom, France, who were all behind it. And however, it was executed during the President Carter's time in the office. After Shah, the king of Iran, left Iran for medical reasons and the government was taken over, Khomeini, Ayatollah, they call him, entered Iran. 9 months later, on November 4th, exactly a year before the election between Carter and Reagan, 52 American diplomats and citizens were held hostage. They remained in custody for 444 days, and their stage release was on the day of Reagan's inauguration. While Iran-Contra was exposed, Reagan was never indicted for betraying a sitting president and making deals with the newly formed regime in Iran behind his back, keeping 52 hostages in Iran unnecessarily for more than 70 days after the election results were known, giving money and guns to an oppressive regime that was already struggling with internal protests. He spoke tough about the regime, but it was all a cover. He didn't do anything when the regime missionaries went around the world and killed all voices of descendants that they could. And then encouraged and supported Saddam into an 8-year war with Iran. So my entire preteen and teen years was consumed with memories of uprising, mass killing, turning our house into a safe house for patriots who were fighting the regime, then seeing their picture of their corpse in the front of the newspapers, watching women and girls being treated as second-hand citizens, getting stopped by the morality police, questioned by the security forces, and having to live a double life just so I can get into the university of my choice. Top that, but by the time I left Iran, a year later, we were immersed into anxiety, pain, and anger because my father and my uncle were being prosecuted and imprisoned at Evin notorious prison with charge of attempted coup d'etat, which led to the execution of my uncle, a highly decorated admiral, and my dad developing brain tumor during his almost 10 years of prison time. My experience, however, sadly is not unique. Most of the Iranians from my generation and our parents' generation have had similar experiences. Our outlook was grim, but we focused on education, art, and sports that were allowed in order to stay sane. While we lived in fear, we never stopped fighting. I'd like to read this quote from Ijoma Umabinyo, the Nigerian artist and writer. Nobody warned that the women whose feet you cut from running would give birth to the daughters with wings. That is exactly what happened in Iran. That is why we're witnessing the courage and determination of young girls in Iran who are fiercely fighting the oppressive regime that is keeping Iranians hostage. We are the 44-year-old hostages of the regime. Why this important to note because I want you to know that the Iranian American community is a traumatized community. Those who had the chance to migrate not only had to go through heartache of leaving loved ones, memories, and their homeland. They needed to learn how to assimilate into a new culture, learn another language, survive the acts of discrimination as a result of the hostage crisis, on top of taking care of their families and working to put themselves through schools. Most have deep emotional scars that we had all suppressed. Most working to put themselves through school that meant stay away from politics. With every uprising in Iran, we in diaspora got excited, got out, and then lost our excitement when the new rounds of mass execution and imprisonment took place in Iran, like the case of the Green Movement in 2009 and again in 2019. But this time, it's different. The youth and young people of Iran have made it clear there's no going back. There's no hope for reform within the regime. The only way to rebuild Iran and for them to have a future is to topple this regime. I'm talking about the coalition of, and also it is for us to make sure that we stop this determined atrocity that is occurring by the regime and also the dictators that have joined forces with the regime. I'm talking about the coalition of Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, and alike. The world can only find peace until the world unites and says enough is enough. Just as it did in the case of the apartheid in South Africa. The world must unite against the gender apartheid in Iran, Afghanistan, and the genocide that is occurring in Armenia, Palestine, China, and other parts of the world. As you heard in the opening video, the current uprising in Iran has received global attention and is known as the Mahsa Jina Amini uprising. And its slogan, "Woman Life Freedom," is repeated everywhere, even on the floor of Congress by our own Representative Katie Porter. The significance of this uprising, as recognized by global leaders, is that it is the first woman-led revolution in documented history. Its message resonates with all women across the world who seek equality, equity, self-determination, autonomy, and human rights as a whole. The plight of women of Iran dates to over 100 years. A real deep dive into the geopolitical circumstances will need a whole another day. But suffice to say that the Iranian women have been fighting for equality for ages, just a few steps behind their sisters in the West. By the 1920s, education became widely accessible to girls, and Iran's first university opened enrollment to women. By 1963, women were allowed to vote. By 1974, the minimum age of marriage was raised from 13 to 18, and women were able to file for divorce as well as child custody. Note, here in California, we still don't have a minimum age of marriage. By the 1970s, women held positions in Iran's parliament and local council positions. But on March 8, 1979, less than 1 month after the victory lap of the Islamic intrusion, Iranian women and girls rallied for 5 days. Nurses and teachers walked out and pushed back against compulsory hijab. In the summer of 1979, the regime enforced compulsory hijab for women at workplace. Many women refused to go to work. Those that went to work dressed in all black. Hence, the day has been known as the Day of Mourning. And that was just the beginning of this tug war between the regime and the women of Iran. Today, more than 60% of graduates from universities are women. They are Nobel Prize laureates, such as Shirin Ebadi, and first ever woman to receive the Fields Medal, the most prestigious award in mathematics, our beloved Maryam Mirzakhani, and many others. Our recent experience in the United States is a terrible deja vu. For Iranian women who once were able to achieve many of the goals of the women's movement, be elected as ministers, judges, be a member of police and army, but to lose all of their rights to self-determination. We feel that we have an obligation to warn the greater American society of the threat of staying silent and complicit as women's rights are stripped away in this country. What happened in Iran was due to religious bigotry, patriarchy, and because women's issues were dismissed and treated as insignificant in comparison to economic and political issues that were present. Treating women and girls as second citizens didn't happen overnight. The experience in the United States is no different when it comes to stripping women's rights and LGBTQ rights. Iranians are not just protesting compulsory hijab and morality police. They're fighting gender apartheid, forced confession, false imprisonment, no due process, torture, extrajudicial killing, social inequities, no free expression, child marriage, funding of terrorism, broad government corruption, and mainly, they're fighting theocracy. So why is all this important? Two reasons. One, Americans have a lot to learn from the experience of other nations such as Iran. In democratic countries such as the US and most of Europe and Canada, while the laws generally have some level of support for gender equality, it is still not possible to fully exercise and leverage equal rights. In recent reports by Georgetown Institute of Women, Peace and Security, the US ranked 21st overall when it came to inclusion, justice, and security. The report came out before Roe v. Wade was overturned. So you can imagine we have stooped even further down. Stripping women and girls and trans men from reproductive rights doesn't do us well. The US also ranks worst out of 40 peer countries on maternity leave, 7th worst for equal pay, and ranks 14th for full legal protection to women. Globally, women have fewer opportunities for economic participation than men, greater exposure to child marriage and sexual violence, provide unrecognized domestic services, have less access to basic and higher education, with US having the highest level of student debt, greater health and safety risks, and less political participation. Although looking around this room, we see quite a bit of women. Thank you for being here. As you know, in US, the Equal Rights Amendment, ERA, has yet to come to the floor for a vote. And that will show the political will of this nation and how committed it is to gender equality. Similarly, CEDAW, the United Nations Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which has been ratified by 186 of 190 countries around the world, has not yet been ratified in the United States. Those other 6 countries are Iran, Sudan, Somalia, Nauru, Palau, and Tonga. You can see, as an Iranian American, I feel double pressure to speak up about this. Neither Iran or America has ratified it. Gender equality is a global issue, but it must have local solutions, like ratifying CEDAW at city and state level, a strategy that Women Intercultural Network, a California-based nonprofit, has been following for decades. And I hope we are always wearing our buttons for ERA now, we are donating to get ERA passed, because that's how we are going to stop Republicans. While there have been many waves of feminist movement, it is the first time that men in Iran have realized that women's equality and civil rights are the first principles of democracy, and therefore have become a vocal voice in the first female-led revolution, the Women Life Freedom Revolution in Iran. The violation of women's rights anywhere is violation of women's rights everywhere. That is why women and girls in Iran rallied and issued statements when Roe v. Wade was overturned. And that is why women around the world should learn from the experience of women and girls in Iran and Afghanistan and mobilize and fight back. And yes, men play a huge role in this fight. The second reason I shared my story with you is that we are heading into a especially important election year. And as conscious and active members of the community, that's why you guys are all here, we will likely do some door knocking, phone banking, text banking, postcarding. It is important that we are all prepared to engage with the Iranian American community. There is over 1 million Iranian Americans in the United States, and more than half of them live in Southern California. You can't run away from us. Many in the community see themselves as Iranians in exile, even though they've been here for more than 3 or 4 decades. When they say my country, they think of Iran. There's a level of guilt they carry for leaving loved ones behind. They registered as Republicans only because President Carter was a Democrat, or because President Obama made a nuclear deal with Iran and returned millions of dollars back to the regime. Are they dismissing a lot of evidence? You bet they are. But it's important to know the background in order to be able to be prepared to reach out to my community. A traumatized community for many years had doormatted their pain of suppression, migration, and difficulties of assimilation, is now reliving their own pain, but for the first time, they're taking part in mobilization around their demands. The community spent money, marched, networked so much that we got the support of Hillary Clinton, Vice President Kamala Harris, 3 former First Ladies, and many other well-known celebrities until an unprecedented decision was made by the UN to expel Iran from the Commission on Status of Women. They should have never been on that commission. They mobilized in Canada, Europe, Australia, New Zealand to make sure that UN Security Council forms a special investigative body to investigate Iran's human rights violations. Across the country, folks made calls, wrote emails, signed a petition, rallied, and lobbied at the Capitol to introduce numerous resolutions and bills to put pressure on the regime. The community has been very direct in their demands for help. But we know that the regime spends money and sends lobbyists to DC. There is also a small fraction of Iranians that want to push for monarchy and return of late Shah's son, Reza Pahlavi, who himself is a strong and vocal advocate for democracy and forming a secular democratic republic in Iran. There are also foreign nations that have been promoting Maryam Rajavi and her Marxist Islamist cult, known with various alias names such as OIAC, NCRI, PMOI, MEK, California Society of Democracy in Iran, and so on. And they're pushing them as a viable alternative to the regime. Republicans have been getting donations and speaking fees for years, attending MEK's events in Albany, Paris, and even in DC. People like Newt Gingrich, Giuliani, Bolton, John McCain, and most notable, Mike Pence, have regarded to Maryam Rajavi as president-elect. In fact, Pence was there praising her in June 2022, and Young Kim, sadly our own representative, held a special Zoom meeting with her on October 1st, 2022. Rajavi also held separate meetings with Congressman Brad Sherman, Congressman Tom McClintock, Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee, Congressman Raul Ruiz, and then Congressman Lance Gooden and Congressman Randy Weber, which are Republicans. MEK also held Nowruz events this March in DC, and among many Republicans, unfortunately, Cory Booker was there to speak at the event. Sadly, Congressman McClintock introduced a resolution this year, HR Res 100, which has garnered bipartisan absolute majority support of 225 members of the Congress, including our own Mike. The resolution is praising Maryam Rajavi's 10-point plan for Iran and presenting the MEK as a democratic alternative to Islamic Republic, when in reality, Iranians inside and outside of Iran know very well that they are two sides of the same coin. The lawmakers supporting this resolution, knowingly or unknowingly, are helping the MEK co-opt the democratic aspiration of Iranians inside Iran. Our organization, Iranian American Democrats of California, quickly led a letter campaign to all these policymakers, asking them to amend or rescind their support for this resolution and provide them with the horrific background of MEK for their education. While the Iranian American community is recognized for innovative, scholarly, and job-creating contributions, they have not been known to be reliable voting bloc. But they have found their voice and gained understanding of how they can mobilize support and put pressure on the elected officials. So be sure that in 2024, they will be voted. But many have become single subject voters. As such, our community has started to track who's co-sponsoring, who's refusing to co-sponsor important bills. They will be asking, how did you support the Iranian people? Do you have the political will to ensure the security of people of Iran? It is important to be prepared when addressing the Iranian community, to show empathy, support, but also be prepared to explain how the candidate that you're advocating has showed up for the Iranian American community. How did they vote? What actions were taken? And how the Democrats are fighting to make sure that the policies that are driven by theocracy don't win in this country. The domestic issue difference between the Democrats and the Republicans is exactly the thing that we are fighting in Iran, and that needs to be amplified. The death of Mahsa Amini amplified the voices of Iranian women and girls who have been fighting against compulsory jobs for more than 4 decades. It's also quickly absorbing the cry of freedom, economic justice, environmental justice, and outcry against embezzlement, imprisonment, torture tactics that have been impacting the entire society. This movement is led by young girls, women, and students, mainly who are currently under chemical attacks in their schools. Almost on daily basis around the country, girls are running outside of classes into their schoolyards where the doors are closed and they're not allowed to leave. And they are choking and ending up in hospital from the unknown chemical substances that is in a gas form being sprayed through their air vents. Who knows what is the long-term effect of this experience they're having, the scare tactics they're using. But this is very important, and they're targeting young girls. Worldwide protests have been organized on weekly basis by all members of community, with over 50,000 in Toronto on October 1st, followed by the largest gathering of 100,000 in Berlin on October 22nd, and recently over 50,000 in downtown Los Angeles and 200,000 worldwide on February 11th. One of the important chants you hear is Iranians make their choice. Americans be their voice. And by that, they mean the following. Iranians are not looking for reform. We're fighting to replace theocracy with secular democracy. Number two, we are asking for policies that lend maximum support for Iranian people, such as satellite internet, creating a labor strike fund as it has been established in the past for Poland and recently for Afghanistan, based on seized assets of sanctioned individuals and organizations, not our tax dollars. Do not make any backdoor deals with the Iranian regime that prolongs the suffering of Iranian people. While many of us celebrated JCPOA or the Iran nuclear deal during President Obama, Trump sabotaged the deal in favor of Russia getting more contracts and access in Iran, which has led to Iranians' outrage over the treaties that give away rights to minerals, waterways, and even soil of Iran to Russia and China. Number four, while we strongly advocate against any direct or military intervention, we do believe that by merely enforcing the existing sanctions, the blood supply to the regime will be cut off. And number five, while we understand the energy supply is a major global concern and there is a desire for access to cheap oil supply, those who are breaking sanctions and providing pathways such as oil blending to Islamic regime should be strongly dealt with. Number six, we seek the support of the elected official for bills and resolutions that can provide maximum support for the Iranian people. However, we cannot emphasize enough the need to listen to the voice of trusted constituents and democratic organizations such as ours, IADC, and PAYA, to ensure that proposed language is of such bills and resolutions don't have adverse impact on the Iranian people and their quest for freedom. The Islamic regime is not just a threat to Iranian people, nor just in the borders of Iran. The regime is the reason behind instability in the Middle East. The IRGC is a terrorist organization that has murdered, abducted, and imprisoned descendants outside of Iran and holds several Europeans and Americans in prison in Iran. Our common goal is to topple the regime, and our ultimate goal is to hold a fair and free referendum in Iran under UN's watch, such that the Iranian people can chart their own future, from the form of the government to who's elected, what flag they use, and what constitution they adopt. So you may think, how's Biden doing? How's President Biden been doing? He's been doing pretty well. There has been 30 rounds of sanctions this September. They are targeting, they are listening, and the members of Congress have also introduced 17 bills, 9 in the House and 8 in Senate, and 4 resolutions, and new ones are coming out all the time, just from the beginning of this year. But one thing, we're all Democrats here. They were all introduced by Republicans. So you can imagine what message that sends to the Iranian American community, which is why we're very strongly engaged with the representatives. Many Democrats have signed on to that, but the champions have been Republicans. So that's why we are very much engaged. We are elected officials, try to give them ideas of bills and resolutions that they can introduce, and for them to also amend or stand up to resolutions that are actually going to damage the people of Iran. And, you know, we ask that you support us by conveying this message as you interact with elected officials and candidates. So, you know, I want to wrap up by doing a pitch for the Iranian American Democrats of California. I ask, you know, that you, you know, visit our website, our social media, become a member, donate, please, and sign up for our periodic newsletters, and help the Iranian American community as we amplify the voices of the people of Iran. The slogan of Women, Life, Freedom is a universal slogan based on international anti-discrimination covenants. Therefore, we shall make our steps faster, our friendships deeper, the women's liberation and gender equality, and our commitment to intersectional solidarity movements stronger. We rise for women, life, freedom, anywhere and everywhere. Thank you for having me.
The will of the people.
Thank you. That was wonderful. We're gonna take some questions. Okay, so we're happy to take questions. Questions.
I'm sorry, I hadn't announced how we were calling on people. Okay, if you would please, raise your hand and I'll try to get around to as many of you as we can. Okay, Mindy. Thank you for sharing your opinion. Thank you. It's not a question, it's an opinion. Thank you. Okay, other questions, let's do. Yes,
Just happened, I think, in Alberta, if I'm off from some element, where they, partly, not to one where they have seen their election. But they were gonna vote to give it their election. They were voting that. What happened to the 20 year old? Apparently, she was there.
Figured at the end that, I for sure, I'm not planning to go back and live in Iran. That doesn't mean that I stop fighting and amplifying their voices, but the 84 million people that live in Iran, I assure you that they have made their voices very clear. They do not want theocracy. They want secular democracy. Now, what that form is, whether it's a republic or is it a constitutional monarchy or a monarchy, that will be up for them to decide. But it is the vote of the people of Iran, and there is no indication, absolutely no indication that that if we were to have a referendum today, that the regime in Iran will stay, that anyone will vote for them to stay.
yes,
But I was just thinking, who controls the military? Because, yeah, you want to bring that.
Yeah, the supreme leader. That's the problem. We don't have just one army. We have the regular army who have taken their oath to the people of Iran to defend the borders of Iran, right? And then there's IRGC. And there's, the Islamic Republic Guard, something, Corps. And so they take all of their, messaging from the Supreme Leader Khamenei. And they have taken their oath to him. That's why they have no problem killing Iranians, because their only goal is to make sure that they preserve the regime. Yes.
Army is there.
Which is why they need to, which is why they need to be sanctioned, they need to be put on the terrorist. We have them in this country, but not in Canada, not in UK, not in Europe. And we need our allies to list IRGC as a terrorist organization, seize all their properties, stop the blood supply to IRGC, and then sure people of Iran will topple them that way. There's much more than of us than it is of them. As I mentioned, first of all, I don't want to undermine that the younger generation of men in Iran do not have those, they did not grow up. It wasn't just the girls who were given wings. The boys, those same mothers have raised boys who stand up for their sisters and their mothers and their daughters. And you can see that the number of, people who are in prison are far more men in prison than there are women in prison. And they are fighting this woman life freedom because woman stands for equality. When we say woman, which really means equality. And when we say life, we're talking about that the entire community, the whole entire, nation has the right to have a normal life. That means equality, equity, economic access, jobs. We have so many very, very talented young men in Iran that have no outlook of a brighter future for them inside Iran. So they're standing up for not only their sisters and for their future daughters and wives and their mothers, they're also standing up for themselves. And when we say, freedom, we're talking about human rights, all of those freedoms that are instilled in human rights for everyone. So this is not, although it's a woman-led revolution, it's true, the girls have been schoolgirls, I'm talking teenage girls that are, so fearless. They are giving the inspiration and they're motivating, but the whole country is in this, from all ages.
Yes,
Well, I gave some suggestions on the postcard behind there, first of all, as you mentioned, that, there may be some misinformation, lack of information, following social media, because we are receiving a lot of videos and, news clips from inside of Iran. So following our social media, will tell you more than you will get from, the mainstream media. Showing up, I love that you guys put in here about the American writing. We are going to have postcards there, and I hope that everyone should come and help us by filling up these postcards where we would be addressing the Silicon Valley, for instance, to make their equipment, the software available to people of Iran so they can, have internet access. And we will be also, continue to expose the Maryam Rajavi and MEK. We will not stop. We will not allow HRS 100 to pass in the in United States Congress. That's just not going to happen. So donating, we would like to be able to do some polls out of the Iranian American community to better target the messaging that we will have for them and for them to really feel heard. So donations to IABP will help support our efforts in running the poll and just talk to other people. Really, if you hear friends, family, they give out misinformation, stop them. Really speak up and really tell people, I hope that you tell other people, I was very adamant about why I told you the stories of all the is we have an election coming and our rights in this country are being stripped away. And we cannot let the United States become another Iran. Believe me, if we don't stop this ball from rolling down, it will take us all down. Just as they did with Roe v. Wade, just as they're doing banning the books, just as they're infringing on LGBTQ. This is how it all gets started. You've seen this, play before. So we all need to step up, and we all need to stop, this.
other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's been quite a few instances around the world, Poland, Hungary, Algeria, Egypt, where there have been democratic movements. And then autocracy usurped those movements. So my question to you, why are you so certain that that wouldn't happen in Iran?
I'm not certain. I didn't say I'm certain that that won't happen here. But what I am certain is that if foreign nations don't meddle, it won't happen. In all those other countries, just like they're trying to do with 9/11, they line up another autocrat ready to replace that. And it makes it really hard for the people of that country to fight from both ends. You know, fighting and revolution is tiring. Even 6-7 months into this revolution, it's exhausting. Emotionally, physically, financially, it's exhausting. So unfortunately, all of things that you talked about, there was foreign intervention that brought the other autocrat, or in the case of Egypt, we had, you know, a military takeover because there was a, you know, an opening that they weren't prepared for. Like they didn't have an opposition leader that was ready to take over, right? But then look at, you know, South Africa and how the world united against the apartheid in South Africa. And, you know, so we have positive examples too, and that's what we're focused on.
Any other questions? I'm sure you all want to visit and talk with Sudi, and some of our other guests, so, feel free to do that. We have this room until 9 o'clock. Yes, I saw him. Yes, stand up and come up and take your pick. Thank you. I remember this. You know, I remind you that last year we had a speaker, talk about what was about to happen in Ukraine. And people said, oh, well, you know, what can you do about that? And, this lady here, got us all doing our blue and yellow. And, things aren't going so bad in Ukraine. Judy, thank you for plugging the writing. Judy and I, we have been board members on the Women for Orange County group for quite a few years. Judy's even been a past president. And so many wonderful activities we put on. And the flyer on your table is the one that is announcing the Great American Write-In. We've had a 2-year hiatus because of COVID. But we're back again, and it's going to be our 35th Great American Write-In. It's Saturday, May 6th at the Delhi Community Center in Santa Ana. And we have a map on the back for you. Today it's going to be pretty popular, and we hope that you will come also. One of our representatives was on the in-house radio station at UCI, and they were discussing it. So we're hoping to get a lot of participation from UCI students. A article will be written in the LA Times on Sunday regarding the write-in also. Oh, all right. We will have 55 different groups. And you can see on the flyer all the organizations that will be participating, and Sudi is one of them. We'll have organizations like Habitat for Humanity, Women Demand Action Against Gun Violence. You can read them all yourself and see. And wait for sure. Yes, they're down there towards the bottom in alphabetical order. They're down there. And so take a look and see any organization you may have a particular interest in. We set up everything. It's free admission, free parking, free food, and stamps for any of the letters that you do write. So we'll have all 55 tables all set up with representatives from the organization. They may have suggested items that you could write about. maybe who you could write these to, your letters to, then we gather all the letters. And we usually have, I know we've had 2,000 to 3,000 more, okay, she says more, at one event, so it takes us quite a while to sort them and stamp them, whatever else. So anyway. Yes, yes, we pay for the stamp. So, hope. More than welcome, when the event happens. So, yes, looking forward to it. Judy, yes.
Well, I just wanted to say that it's an open event, you can come anytime between 9:30 and 1:30. You don't have to be there at a certain time, you can walk through and whatever issue happens to float your boat, get their information, write it, and you'll take postage.
All right, you need help?
Well, yeah, we do need help with, parking and food distribution. Anybody that wants to help, I've got a clipboard.
We're very pizza.
Okay. Thanks, Ellen. Thanks, Carolyn. Okay.